Hello, my name is Tessa Mero, and I'm a developer advocate at Cloudinary. I've also been on leadership teams for open source projects in the past and have led many developer communities. I've also been working with an executive coach for several years and wanted to share what makes someone a leader. I was also inspired to put together this talk after recently having several lunch club meetings, and I'll mention what lunch club is at the end of the presentation, with other women who are asking me, like, how can I be more of a leader at work? I'm not even sure what to do or how to start. I wanted to share some areas I've been improving on in comparison to advice from famous tech women executives to be a better leader. Let's look at the stats. In the last 10 years, women have made strides to be over 46% of the workforce in the tech field. As you move up in titles, the percentage of women becomes significantly lower, hitting 10% of the workforce in the executive level. The issue stemmed from the culture of the computer science industry, where it was more marketed towards men. Movies and video games that demonstrated programmers slash nerds, they were all men. Then we have the tech industry's executive heroes that are all a majority of men, such as Bill Gates from Microsoft, Mark Zuckerberg from Facebook, Steve Jobs from Apple, Sundar Pichai from Google, and Jack Dorsey from Twitter. And the list goes on from there. Even looking on the web for images to put together this presentation, it was like I had a little struggle finding pictures of women when looking up specific keywords with women in leadership. We can change this by educating and encouraging other women in tech to be more of a leader in their role. It doesn't necessarily require an executive title to act as a leader and role model to your colleagues and people around you. You can contribute by sharing your experience, mentoring other women in tech, or giving each other resources or guidance on improving in different areas. There are many reasons why you may want to be more of a leader. Do you want to create impact? Do you want to encourage others? Make changes internally? Get a promotion? Push strategy and process within your company? Or simply voice an opinion that people take seriously? By the way, that's like a yes check for all of them for myself personally. A good way to understand what kind of personality traits stand out with women executives and how they make great leaders would be to look at the top women CEOs and executives in the tech industry as an example. And a lot of this was inspired by an article I read a ton of different articles on executive women and their stories, and my favorite one was on Inc.com called Five Stories from Trailblazing Women Leaders. So I'm going to tie in stuff that I'm going to say with their best suggestions. Number one, Mary Barra, CEO of General Motors. And by the way, all of these women are just so spectacular. I would really recommend reading their story in depth. I was just very brief with what their number one leadership recommendation is. Her biggest trait is always focusing on what she is most passionate about, which helped her rise to the top. If you are working towards business objectives that you really care about, it's easier to create more impact towards these goals. And my career path into developer advocacy stemmed from my love for tech. I started as a programmer and I started speaking at conferences and I was teaching at a college. And I found my passion in being part of developer communities and being able to do what I'm most passionate about, which is teaching. Find the areas that you care about the most and try to improve your skills in a way where you can create more impact. Ginny Rometty, CEO of IBM. Number two, she suggests that you should have a mentor and then you can become that role model or mentor to other women. So this is an area I want to discuss further because since I started my career back in 2011 in tech, I was really lucky enough to be a social person and found my love for networking and had several mentors throughout my career. There are many reasons to have a mentor or career coach or an executive coach other than learning from their career path and advice. First off, let's look at the differences between a mentor and a coach. Based on my personal experience, as I've had both and have both, a mentor, I've always had a mentor, sometimes a few. It's a trusted source that can provide guidance and advice. Someone that's been in the industry for a long time, or someone that has like a role you, that may be your dream job. At times you can have multiple mentors. Like there's no maximum amount of mentors you can have, right? Learning about their role, what kind of qualities they have, and what they worked on to improve their leadership abilities and skills. A paid coach, which is what I currently have had for the last few years, is someone you meet with on a regular basis on an actual schedule. I have mine set on specific days and times every single month, and it never changes unless there's like some kind of meeting conflict. And they work with you on improving in different areas and help you reach very specific goals that you have. Maybe you want to take on more responsibilities. Maybe you want a promotion. Maybe you have different areas you want to work with. Coaches will also identify key areas for you to work on to achieve these goals, such as like what are your weakness areas? And then they give you like different things that you can work on. With most coaches, you'll report back with results of these areas that you've been working on and what your results were, or what kind of responses you got from it. And it'll give you a better understanding of how changing your behavior and your word usage will really impact this. It would really, really, really impact different situations. And that's been really, really fun on my end because like my executive coach really pointing out different areas that I never thought I had issues, and I'm like, oh wow, I didn't know I can approach that differently. Oh wow, like now that I approach that differently, things have been more effective with my work or with whatever situation you're working on. I would suggest going with whatever is most convenient for you and best options for you to find. It's not always something that you have to do. It's just, it's nice to have. One thing that stands out with women leaders is their ability to think positively and stay calm and confident in most situations. With having a mentor or coach, both share a similar end result. And this has really changed me greatly, is building your confidence and learning from someone's in-depth experience. So, you are probably wondering, what are some ways to be more of a confident person, to be looked at as more of a leader? I'd recommend being one of the top key traits to start working with. Like building your confidence is very, very important. And confidence gives you strength in your work. And I have many methods that I work on to be more of a confident person that will demonstrate your strength. Having these qualities will help you also adapt to new situations, like the previous CEO of YouTube mentioned. I'm going to elaborate more on areas that I work on um, most for my confidence and strength building. So going into that, um, working on breathing techniques to help you stay calm in all situations. I'll stop for a moment and take several deep breaths. And I do this several times throughout the day. And I actually started doing this after watching a presentation I think it was a leadership type of conference I went to. And she said it was life changing for her when she started stopping and just taking long, deep breaths. And I started doing that for many years. And I don't know what it does. It does something to your mind that just makes you just think better. I just think more clearly, and I just feel more calm in different situations than I have before. In any situation, Ask questions to fully understand a situation so you can give more confident responses. I've made a lot of mistakes in the past by making comments or opinions without fully understanding the situation, when simple questions could have made the situation more effective. I mean, I still make these simple mistakes occasionally, but I'll stop myself quick and remind myself, like, you know, I, maybe asking questions and just understanding the perspective more will help prevent, any kind of issues. Or, sometimes you start going off with your comments and going on and on about it when it has nothing to do with what they were trying to ask. So just really understand people. And another way to understand people is the whole emotional intelligence area. Working on increasing your emotional intelligence, which is I think this is like my own definition, is just your ability to analyze situations based on someone's emotions and behaviors. At least that's kind of my take on emotional intelligence, and adjust how you respond to a situation based on that. Often I'll think about what someone is saying and ask myself, why are they saying that and why? Why is it important to them? How would they feel if I responded with X or Y or Z? X, Y, and Z being like different types of responses. Now just like kind of really, think of both sides of the situation. Or maybe someone is sending me a message sounding potentially upset or rude via chat, which has happened many times in the past. And I'll take a moment to understand, why are they speaking in this way? And I'll try to de-escalate the situation by understanding their point of view and understanding why they feel that way, and more in depth of the whole situation as a whole and how other people are viewing it before I offer any kind of suggestion or input. And we're humans too. Like sometimes emotions get in the way. Sometimes it's hard to really just stop immediately and think through. And it's a big part of a leadership trait, is being able to identify that you need to take a moment and just think things through. And it doesn't come naturally to people. It's something that you actually have to practice over time. Learning to trust others for others to trust you. This is something I've been working on a lot. You will actually feel more confident in your work relationships. I always assume everyone has good intentions until they prove they don't. And that's actually a common theme at companies, to have that as a built-in value. Learn to trust others until they prove not to be trusted. But most of the time, it's always good intentions. We are all trying to accomplish the same common company goals at work, and we need to realize this. It's the matter of understanding different communication styles, especially when we are all from different parts of the world with different cultures. The company I work at, the company I've worked at before, we're all located from different parts of the world. And the way people communicate, the way they say things, word usage might sometimes be looked at as kind of rude, or maybe it's not. You really have to like take the time to understand. And all of these methods kind of tie into each other. Being able to speak confidently while being direct and clear. Okay, maybe that wasn't very direct and clear the way I said that. If you speak in a way that demonstrates your strong belief in your thoughts and your ideas, it will also come across that way to others, allowing others to feel confident about what you have to say. In addition to speaking direct and clear, being able to add business value and statistics will help other teams understand the points you're trying to make. In the last few years, I have worked on changing my word usage and how I say things, which have given me better results. And I've always found this area to be like my most struggle, because I grew up with no English, but English is my first language. But I didn't have English growing up. It was more, we would call it like, it was mostly broken English that I would speak. And I had to take ESL classes and learn how to speak appropriate and It was only like basic words being used in my household. So just expanding my vocabulary and learning different ways to say the same thing can actually give different results. The most important leadership quality, and it's related to being confident, is not being afraid to ask for help. And this is something I wish I can go back to day one and do this more often. It is not a sign of weakness to ask others for help or show that you're not understanding something. It only shows that you are wanting to understand and learn something on a greater level, and it shows that you care. And I love people asking me questions, whether it's work, whether it's, on social media, wanting to, have discussions about things and have questions about different topics. And I just love, you know, wanting to help others improve because people did that to me. And I want to share, you know, how things went well for me. Sheryl Sandberg, COO of Facebook. One thing that helped her road to being more of a leader is accountability. When it comes to work, if I did something wrong or made a mistake, I'm more than willing to apologize or say it was my fault. And I follow it up with how I will correct it or prevent it from happening again. And it can be something as simple as something that happened today to me, actually. I got an invite meeting that is important for me to go to that was also sent to a large group of people. And I made the mistake of forgetting to block out the day because I'm not available that whole day, which means everyone had to reschedule their meeting because I failed to do that. So it's simple. I take responsibility and I apologize and take responsibility for my action. And it's just important to take consideration of other people's time instead of, making excuses or blaming others. And people are smart and can see right through that. So it's okay to just be honest to yourself and be honest to others. Trust and honesty. I want to just keep elaborating on those words. Susan Wojcicki, previously Senior VP at Google and now the CEO of YouTube, like mentioned her in a previous slide. She credits her ability to work her way up in her leadership roles from her ability to adapt to new situations. Adapting to new situations involves being able to take in new information and look at things in a different perspective and giving a flexible mindset to make the right decisions. For example, from my experience in my current and previous roles, company objectives could change annually, or the product or team you work on can evolve. Sometimes the product that you are working on, they take a completely different turn, or it ends up being a completely different product, or they drop one product and then you get moved to a different product. You have to adapt to these changes. I've been lucky to be naturally open minded, to be able to take situations as is and work on the new information given and refocus all of my work based on that rather than feeling upset about wasted hours or work from previous projects when things have changed abruptly. You have to think of it as a big picture, as you're doing something for the greater good, for the whole company, not for what you've been working on your time. So think of things at a greater level and not an individual level. Marilyn Husin, CEO of Lockheed Martin. Her top advice to taking more risks that can provide more opportunities. Risk, 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 risk. Why take risk? Great opportunities always come with risk. And risk is one of my favorite things. I'm just like one of those crazy risk takers. For example, I've recently went skydiving. I like to do some crazy risk that's outside of work, and it's just very rewarding at the end. Taking risk shows that you are confident. Okay, so I was a little bit scared before jumping off the plane, but still, it was a lot of taking deep breaths and positive thinking. Taking risks allow you to learn from a mistake if things don't go well. Sometimes to demonstrate being a leader requires taking some risks to be more successful. Risks don't always have to be something major. It can be something very simple. Before making the decision of taking risk, put together a list of pros and cons and see what weighs the best. A majority of risks I've taken has only benefited me, although there was a lot of fears and doubts that led up to that moment. I'm sure the risk that hasn't benefited me, I probably like flushed out of my memory and I don't want to remember, but I would have to think a lot about that. But I've always just focused on the positive results. I've never been much of a risk taker in my career in the past, mostly because being a woman in tech, I feel like the expectations are higher for me not to fail. So it feels like a risk to even take a risk. For example, one of the things I've been working on that relates to taking risk is taking responsibility for different parts or of projects that contributes to the success of the larger project, which involves being accountable for whether it fails or not. Taking risks like this demonstrates leadership qualities, and it's a good way to practice too. Another example is taking the risk of pushing an idea for change that involves the work of another department. There's always that voice in the back of my mind that tells me that it's too risky and people will dislike me for being too noisy or annoying, when it's just me going with a gut feeling, doing what I think is best for the team and for the company as a whole. It's sometimes it's not a bad thing. And like I said earlier, just really taking consideration of the pros and the cons. All of these traits have something in common. They all relate and tie into each other. Building confidence gives you more strength. With more confidence and strength, you'll take more risk. Taking more risk means being more accountable, and more risk and being accountable means adapting to a lot more new situations. Thank you very much. I hope this lightning talk gave a different perspective with leadership and inspired you in a different way. If you want to continue conversation, feel free to send me an email, preferably on social media, a DM on Twitter, and I'd love to have a discussion with you about leadership. It's my favorite topic that I love learning about. Also, check out lunchclub.com. I have no affiliation with them at all. It's a website that I use for mentoring others and for getting mentorship. So there's a box that you can check. It's like a networking club that you meet on video call and you check which one that you're interested in. And my focus is on the mentoring area. So I'll find people to mentor me. And then I've mentored several women in the last few weeks actually, and it's just a really good feeling to just walk away from the meeting saying like, wow, like this was such a good idea and I'm so glad I did this, and I'm trying to get all my friends to sign up for it, and I've had really good positive feedback from them. It's definitely life changing and I would suggest it. But if you have other ideas on the best options for finding a mentor, or maybe posting on social media looking for a mentor, then I definitely recommend what's best for you. So again, thank you very much. This has been great. And yeah, hopefully I hear from you on social media. Bye bye.